The ending to Life is Strange is bringing out a lot of raw feelings in people. Depression, denial, anger, bargaining, almost all of the 5 stages of grief. The 5th one, acceptance, hasn't exactly settled in yet for most players, though. To say that people got very attached to this game and its characters would be a massive understatement, left in part thanks to the game's brilliant writing. Don't Nod Entertainment managed to develop what started as a quirky indie game about hipsters and time travel into a dark mystery that leads to a cautionary tale about the effects of trying to change an inevitable fate. The lack of wish fulfillment at the end of Life is Strange has already been discussed by others, such as Geek Remix, so I won't go into it too much here. There's been a tiny issue among gamers, or at least one that I've noticed, and that's when a game has more than one ending, people tend to get a little hostile to others about the endings they pick. Life is Strange is hardly the first case either. Back when The Walking Dead Season 2's finale was released, people got on each other's case for what they chose. Players were immediately judging others for the ending they received. Books and movies have set endings, but video games have endings that are often determined by player choice. It is what makes it an interactive story. You could get mad at the writers or the developers, but who was the one that pressed the button in the first place? Ultimately, it was you, and having that much responsibility can be terrifying for some players. And when people are scared, they lash out, which is understandable. You want to know that you picked the right choice, or that you did the right thing. The thing is, that in Life is Strange, that's where things get a little murky. People like to feel justified in what they chose, like their choice was the only choice to make. And if you chose differently, there's a chance they'll start questioning their choice, and they don't want that at all. It's horrifying to them, the idea that they could be wrong, that the consequences are permanent. But then, when you think that it's just a game, you realize that it has become much more to you. And even if you decide to reload your save, the original choice that you made is still in the back of your mind. It's a way to tell that the game has moved beyond just a game, that it's become a living world with people that you actually care for. When people get attached to characters like Chloe, Kenny, Jane, and Lee so very easily, it's that to you, they've become much more than characters on a screen. They've become friends, and you have to make some hard choices that often determine if they live or die. Life is Strange gives players a choice at the very end of the game, both of which involve death. The death of Chloe, or the death of the countless people in Arcadia Bay, the exact death toll being unknown. Now, it's easy to see why people were so perturbed by these choices. One is a choice where you sacrifice a character you grew to love, or at least like, in order to save the lives of people you might not have cared for at all. Or sacrifice thousands of people in the town of Arcadia Bay and drive away from it, leaving you with a very ambiguous ending. Think of the ending of The Mist if it just ended with them driving away from the supermarket like it did in the novella. Both of these endings had one thing in common, and that was confronting the uncomfortable truths about Life is Strange, and a subject matter that many have difficulty talking about or coming to terms with. This is why I mentioned the 5 stages of grief earlier, because these are the things that many fans are going through right now. Life is Strange is forcing you to experience the death of someone or multiple people that you've grown to care about. This is an extremely difficult thing to face and not something that you'd expect from a video game. And when you think about the intended audience for Life is Strange, teenagers, they're going to probably have the hardest time with it. In Disturbing the Universe, Power and Repression in Adolescent Literature by Roberta Selinger-Trites, she states, "Death is another biological imperative. It is, perhaps, even more powerful in the human mind than sexuality, for although in theory some individuals can live asexually, no one avoids death. Moreover, humans have created multiple institutions surrounding the biological reality of death to help them control its power. Most religions, for example, have institutional investments in explaining death to people. For many adolescents, trying to understand death is as much of a rite of passage as sexuality is. When it comes to adolescent works, death isn't just the idea that the person is dead. They aren't coming back no matter what you do. In a narrative, death is shown as a finality, as the end of the line, and throughout Life is Strange, it's shown that you're essentially cheating death. You're creating paradoxes, separate timelines, and all sorts of small fluctuations in order to save one person, to the point where the price of saving that person is the lives of the people of Arcadia Bay. Gone are the innocent days where you could just have fun with Chloe and relax. The benign aspects of this life that Max was living are gone. It's time for her to grow up and face the consequences of everything, which is honestly a difficult thing to do. The ending is about accepting consequences of what you've done, whether good or bad. You still changed things. With one action, you disrupted the balance of the universe, and now you have to fix it or deny it completely. These sorts of questions aren't presented very often in video games, and judging by the vitriol that's been thrown around about this, it doesn't seem that very many people fully understand why this ending is as amazing as it is. You're forced to become an adult, That's what this is. That's what this game has always been about, right from the very beginning. And yet, people are still denying this. They refuse to see the writings on the wall that have been there since the very beginning, or even worse, saying that because one could predict it, the ending was bad because of it. A predictable ending doesn't mean it's a bad ending. An ending that fits into tropes doesn't make it a bad ending. If you honestly think that, then every piece of fiction that exists out there can be considered awful as long as you're genre savvy enough. The ending to Life is Strange closes the book on Max's and Chloe's story. It ends a ride that people have been on since early this year, and it does it in a way that complements the narrative very well. It's one of the best indie games this year, and deserves to be recognized as such. If you don't like the ending, that's fine, but before typing something to someone, take a second to respond. Because if you're acting out of anger or sadness, you might say or write something you don't mean, and in this timeline, you can't reverse time to take it back.